Thank you very much for inviting us. When we said that we wanted to cooperate on this seminar, for us it was very important to do this together with Presseclub Concordia and fjum, because we believe that the peace architecture in Europe is very much influenced also by perceptions. And therefore, we thought before starting this debate, we'll give you a very short, a very brief insight, a spotlight, as to say, in our big study, which we published at the Munich Security Conference, the Security Radar, because it shows you on what kind of Russia we're talking about in Europe. It shows you how perceptions have changed and how Europeans right now perceive Russia and how we see a convergence of views here. The study is based on a representative poll in 4 countries. It's done in Poland, Germany, France, and Latvia. I will bombard you with a few numbers, but important are the trends. If you want to look at the numbers more thoroughly, go to our website. It's peace.fes.de, and you'll find it there. So what we see is a convergence of threat perceptions. If we have done a poll in 2021 and one in 2022. And what we see is that in France and Germany, the view on Russia was quite benign, as to say it like that, in 2021, and that has changed. We now have a view that Russia is a threat for all these countries, in Germany, in France, as well as in Poland and Latvia. And the same thing applies when you ask people, do you think a military confrontation between Russia and the West is possible? That was unthinkable in Germany and France, especially before the war. After the war, this has changed. There is now fear and concern in these countries as well. If we ask people how they view this war, is it a proxy war? Is it a war between democracies and autocracies? Or is it a war about the territory of Ukraine? It's the violet part, the bigger part. So most people in all of the 4 countries believe that this war is about the Ukrainian territory. It's not an ideological war between democracy and autocracies, and it's not a proxy war. And the second thing that we see developing slowly inside the populations is this belief or the assessment that we're moving towards a kind of a new Cold War setting. If you look at the question, is the interest of countries or regions contradictory? You see that the European Union and Russia, America and Russia have contradictory interests, whereas you see a very low number between the United States and Europe, for example. So it's kind of a block forming here. On the one side, Russia and China, and on the other hand, America and Europe, in the hands of people in Europe, of course. We do see, and I understand that especially you in the back can't read anything here, but there is a convergence in response. There is a general agreement that people want to widen sanctions, and that has been the case now in all 4 countries. There is a general sense that people want to decouple from Russia. That is the yellow blocks in the middle. On China, the question is a little bit more difficult, so that is a harder nut to chew on in the future. And there is also a belief that we should raise our military expenses, which is the block on the right here. But this convergence doesn't lead to convergence also in responses. Because if you ask people, do you believe that the Eastern enlargement of NATO or the European Union is a problem, there you see the difference again. In Germany and France, this Eastern enlargement is perceived as a threat, whereas in Poland and Latvia, it's different. So the question, and that is the next question, do you want that Ukraine joins NATO? Do you want that Ukraine joins the European Union? Is answered differently in the 2 parts of Europe, and we take them as pass pro toto for what is going on in Europe. So the question that will coming up in the future on how to deal with this region and how to deal with this region between Europe and Russia will be a hard one to answer. Another difference that we can see is in the aims that should be pursued in this war. We took here a question from the European Council of Foreign Relations, asking, do you want to pursue peace, even if that means compromises for Ukraine, meaning territory concess to Russia, or do you want justice, even if that means more Ukrainians killed and displaced? The left one, the violet part, is the peace camp, and the right one is, the yellow one is the so-called justice camp. But what you can see, and I think that is also kind of a positive outlook, is that especially in Poland and Latvia, people don't want to decide between these quite harsh and simplistic choices. So there is a differentiation in viewing this kind of war, but we see that there are different objectives, and that needs a debate inside Europe. Last point here, leading us a little bit into the debate. What does it mean on a broader, on a global level? What do people believe this war is doing in kind of global balances? Does it strengthen parts of the world or not? And you see clearly that people believe that NATO is strengthened, that's the blue part, that the US is strengthened, that's also the upper blue part, and that Russia, which is in the middle and the red part, is weakened very clearly. The European Union is viewed kind of static, neither strengthened nor weakened, and China is also seen as kind of strengthened by this war. So we're moving in the minds of people to a world that is kind of divided into blocks. We have a strengthened United States, we have a strengthened China, we have a strengthened transatlantic bond with NATO, but we have a clearly weakened Russia, a Russia that is perceived as a threat, and we don't see many responses in our poll, which is far bigger. We have a 60-page study, and I kind of compromised that into 5 minutes now. We have very, very few answers that show that people believe that we can cooperate or that even Russia can change in the future. If you want to see a little bit closer into it, and I won't go into the challenges, just visit our website. And thank you very much for your attention.